Okay, folks. Listen. Alright, gang? You listening? This is Ben Shapiro, folks. I've taken over Box Office Addict. It's my show now. Okay. It doesn't really matter what you think about that. If you're wondering where Pat is right now, he's gone. I've taken care of that. Okay. He's gone, gang. It's a Ben Shapiro show now. We're going to take 5-minute breaks in between every box office analysis and talk about Blue Apron and mattresses, folks. And in between that, I'm going to talk about my wife, who's a doctor. She's a doctor. And the idea that you think that I'm just doing all this because I'm jealous of Pat's genius is pretty ridiculous. You see, folks, I made a vow to God when I was young, very young, folks, to say, I would do everything right by you, Lord. I'd be the most devout Jew ever. And in doing so, God would bless me, folks. Okay? He'd bless me with high intelligence, fame, celebrity, and everything I could have ever wanted, gang. So, the best part about all of this is that it happened. I kept my word to God, folks, and then God gave me everything I ever wanted. I went to Harvard. I did great. I'm awesome. I met a woman. She's wonderful. She's a doctor. Now I have a hit podcast. I've been in the Bill Maher Show, CNN. I played the Schindler's List theme by John Williams on violin when I was a child. Larry King introduced me. Okay, folks. Larry King. Pretty big guy. Pretty famous. Okay. So, needless to say, things have been very good for me. How's it been going with you guys? We're not going to spoil Halloween here. Alright? It's not happening. I promise, folks. We're not going to be talking about Halloween, Brian G. I'm glad that you brought that up in the chat. Okay. It is smut. It's disgusting. I have no interest in talking about that movie, but it made money. Alright? I'm okay with the free market. I'm okay with the movie succeeding. Alright? That means it had good marketing. That means that it's giving people a product that they want. I have no problem with that. I may not like Hollywood's agenda and the messages they put in their movie. And don't get me wrong, we could talk about Jamie Lee Curtis and the gun stuff. Alright? Because it's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah. I don't recommend the film. I did not see the film, but I'm sure it's terrible. This David Gordon Green hasn't directed anything worthy. I saw that George Washington movie, folks. Wasn't very good. So, anyway, I got everything I wanted out of life. Things were pretty great, folks. Okay, so I'm very happy to be hosting Box Office Addict. But why am I here? Ben Shapiro, conservative celebrity, the poster boy for the future, possible president one day. Just saying, folks. Anyway, essentially what happened, gang, after all of these successes in my life, I had come upon a YouTube video, gang. It was called Why Rose Doesn't Work. It was referring to The Last Jedi, that movie that I did a thorough review of that has politics that I do not agree with. Alright, and a lot of these films have been ridiculous, even though I liked Rogue One. Rogue One's good. It was good. I'm not trying to shill too much, okay? I can make money. If you have a problem with that, make money. Please watch someone else. Okay? I'm allowed to have sponsors. I don't care if I talk about the sponsors at random moments between really dramatic stories. Like, oh, school shooting happened. Anyway, get Blue Apron, folks. It's only $1,000 a month. There's nothing wrong with that. You guys who judge me for that are pretty ridiculous. So I watch this Why Rose Doesn't Work video, and it's the best thing I've ever seen. I was hearing in this guy's voice. I was seeing through the images in his video the voice of God. It was happening, folks. The voice of God. This devastated me. You see, as hard as I had worked, and for as much time I'd put into how I articulate things, and studied economics and history to be ready for debates with random college kids at universities, I wasn't ready for something like this. Comedy, drama, full-depth analysis. Who was this Pat? And what was Please Rewind, folks? Why are you saying it, Please Rewind? Ben Shapiro loves Rogue One? You may think it's boring. That's fine. You probably just have terrible taste, okay? And it's certainly better than Force Awakens and Last Jedi. So, anyway, folks, get back to my story. Before we get to the box office, which I'm very excited about, gang, is that the guy behind these videos, this Pat, total idiot, moron, not worth listening to, tries to pretend he's loquacious, but really, he just likes to hear the sound of his own voice, alright? How could this be someone with so much talent? Why did I have to work so hard? Okay, why did my sister's nudes get leaked? Okay, maybe I looked at them, maybe I didn't. That's not for me to go into right now. How are her boobs so big, but her frame so small? I don't know, folks. Alright, it's a mystery to me and my family. We're not sure either. But it's not like I want to be in a socialist hellhole. I don't need everything to be equal. I don't feel like I deserve all of Pat's talent when I have more success. And it got deeper and deeper, folks. Deeper and deeper. But first, let's get to the box office gang. The box office gang. That's going to be the new name of the show, folks. Also, I don't appreciate that this episode's 66 and it's Halloween. Alright, one more number and it's the number of the beast, 666. That's not good, folks. Alright? That's really bad, gang. Okay? The devil is real. Okay? And he's trying to win the war for your soul. Okay? Alright, let's talk about The Nun, folks. Alright, The Nun. I didn't see this movie either. It looked really bad. I've heard the movie's really bad, gang. This is a sequel to the Conjuring movies. I didn't see those movies either. $22 million budget. That's a pretty modest budget. Seems like they were pretty good with that, folks. $53 million opening weekend. Those are great numbers. $360 million worldwide. This is a big hit. I don't know if it'll make $400 million or not, but all things considered, I'd say this movie's making a lot of money, gang. We're gonna skip some of these other movies I haven't heard of. Beautiful Boy. That's a homosexual movie with that Timothy Chalamet. I don't want to talk about it. Alright. Steve Carell's overrated, folks. The House with a Cock in its walls. I mean, clock in its walls. My bad, folks. Sorry about that. I'll watch my language. 1.7 million. Free Solos. It's about Han Solo. I guess it's about a guy rock climbing, not Han Solo. That's disappointing. Okay. So anyway, The House with a Clock in its walls from the terrible director Eli Roth. He's friends with Quentin Tarantino, who's a porno director. He just makes pornos that people love. 104 million worldwide, folks. $64 million domestically, $42 million budget. Don't know what the marketing budget is on this one, alright? I have no idea. So for right now, we're just going to say that this film's doing okay. That's about it. Nothing special. The Old Man and the Gun. I saw this movie. I love it. It's great. Robert Redford. Movie you could take your parents to go see. Awesome. Great date movie. Good. Traditional film. Good values. 123% increase this weekend. 4.2 million, folks. I don't know what the budget of this film is, but it seems to be doing overall pretty okay. So this is supposed to be Robert Redford's last film role. See how that goes. The rapist Casey Affleck is in this movie, folks. And Danny Glover. Okay. Okay. Certainly like him better than Donald Glover. Anyways, film seems to be doing okay. Bad Times at the El Royale. And certainly it was. Bad time, folks. $3 million this weekend. 53% drop. This film's a bomb. $32 million budget, $21 million worldwide from Drew Goddard, director of Cabin in the Woods. Film I liked a lot. It's really good. Night School, starring Kevin Hart. Very overrated comedian. Not funny, folks. Like a lot of comedians today. Just not funny. $84 million worldwide, $29 million budget. Those are good numbers, folks. I mean, it's not a big hit, but it's okay. Doing okay. Okay. Smallfoot. 6.6 million. 66 million worldwide, folks. 137 million worldwide. Probably a bigger budget than some of the other films we've been looking at, so I don't think this film's doing that well. The Hate You Give. 7.5 million. 10.6 million domestic. This film looks terrible. $23 million budget. It's a bomb. Okay, it's a bomb. First Man, from the director of Whiplash and La La Land. has his first disappointment on his hands. 46% drop, 8.5 million, second weekend. Not great numbers. Well reviewed critically, but it seems like audiences aren't responding to this film. Ryan Gosling's overrated. $16 million opening weekend, folks. $59 million budget with marketing. This film's going to need to at least make $150 million worldwide to look okay. Probably break even, if not a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see, but right now it doesn't look that good. I can't see this even making 50, 60 million domestically. Those aren't good numbers. Goosebumps 2, 9.7 million. $39 million worldwide, $35 million budget. Film's doing okay. Not a great hold, 38%, because the opening weekend wasn't that big. Alright, not that big of a deal. Batman v Superman's terrible. Zack Snyder's awful. Thank you. Pat is being held hostage somewhere right now. Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you because then you'd go find him. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you know you're dealing with somebody that has 185 IQ? Alright? Don't fuck with me. You see, over the last few months, folks, behind the scenes, even though I've still been presenting myself as someone who follows in the path of God in my religion, Ben Shapiro's gone bad. I was tortured by the talent of Pat. What could I do? I hated God. I wanted vengeance. I tried to sleep with Pat's girlfriend. I tried to seduce her, but I realized this would just be petty. Alright? I didn't want that. I said I'd give him 20,000 YouTube subscribers. But then it occurred to me, like, if I'm going to bring Pat down and get him caught in my web of deception, of subterfuge, folks, I had to do it in the most epic way possible. I had to take over his entire YouTube career. And take him away from it, folks. You see, I'd convinced myself that it was all just in my head, Pat's talent, how good the Star Wars Last Jedi videos were. It was just luck that can come upon anyone who makes videos like that. Unfortunately, folks, recently I came across a video by Pat called Why I Don't Like Will Hunting. Okay? Good Will Hunting, movie I've always hated. I've always wanted to say something about, and problems I have with that film because I'm smarter than the Will Hunting character. Besides that, folks, I'm also smarter than Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, by the way. So, the biggest issue I found here, folks, was that this video was even more brilliant than the Star Wars videos. Pat had reached another level, artistically, intellectually. He had made something that'll last the test of time. Sure, people today aren't getting it. It only has 600 views, folks. But this video deserves tens of millions of views. It's that amazing. In a century from now, everyone's going to talk about this Please Rewind video, folks. And is anybody going to remember Ben Shapiro? I'll just be a meme. I'll just be something that people refer to as someone of the moment. But Please Rewind lives on forever, folks. What was I to do? It was clear to me now that that video I had watched was not an accident. This indeed, folks, was the voice of God. I was staring through a cage at an absolute beauty. But I would get my way. I will face God. Even if God has given his power, folks, through Pat, I won't let him win. So I found that Pat had been doing a show, Box Office Addict, for 66 episodes, over a year long. So I went to his apartment on his day off from work, because all he does is fucking work, and that's all he talks about. Like, he acts like it's so important that he has a job when everyone else has a job, right, folks? And the idea that you think that I'm just bringing that up as some kind of way to knock him down and put myself up, you goddamn right it is. Anyway, folks, I tied Pat up. I beat him up a little. He's put away somewhere now. I found his computer. I got all his passwords. I got all the stuff. I Mark Zuckerberged him. Mark Zuckerberged him, if you will, folks. And now Box Office Addict is mine. And every episode will be done for me from now on. And everyone will remember the show's Ben Shapiro Show. I saw Pat mention me in a few videos. And has even taken a video down where he talked about my feelings on tattoos. Well, fuck you. Ben Shapiro here wanting to debate Quentin Tarantino. That might happen in the future. Alright, let's get back to the box office, folks. Alright. I'm having a hard time talking, gang. Venom, 18.1 million. $171 million domestically. This is actually great. This is overperforming in all counts. This could definitely make 600 million, if not 630, and pass Ant-Man 2, folks. All right. Okay. Tom Hardy. This is a major success for him after a few successes in a row. He's in Dunkirk. He's in The Revenant. Both made a lot of money. Okay. 190 million, 183 million. Mad Max Fury Road movie I thought was okay. Just okay. 154 million. Very overrated, though. Just like every movie. Everything's overrated. 461 million worldwide, folks. All right, this is definitely going to make over 100 million in profit now for Sony. They make a sequel and throw Spider-Man in there. Little cameo role. I can see us making a lot of money. Director of Zombieland, Ruben Fleischer. So, success for Sony despite bad reviews, gang. Bad reviews, and people think there's an hype superhero movies are a sure thing, all right? Even though I'm sick of them, they're overrated, okay? They're all overrated, folks. This film's doing really well. A Star is Born, great movie. Love it. Love it. Love Gaga. Gaga's great. Love the Gaga. Love the Cooper. Coop and Gaga. Koopa Gaga. Anyway, folks, before we get into this, remember, Blue Apron. Only $5,000 a day. It's really affordable. It's great. They send the food to your house. Tells you how to make the food. It's good food. Food you probably couldn't make. It's very convenient. You end up saving a lot of money because you got to go to the grocery store and you go out to eat, but just have Blue Apron. Blue Apron, Blue Apron. 19.3 million, folks. 32% drop. This movie's holding great. It's already becoming a blockbuster straight up. Last week hold 33%. This one 32%. If this keeps up, this film's going to make $180 million, if not $200 million. It's already made $200 million worldwide on a $36 million budget, directed by Bradley Cooper. Great. Great budget. Great marketing. Songs are becoming hits. Gonna get Oscar nominations. Great reviews. All doing great, folks. Gaga's gonna be a movie star. Bradley Cooper has a new career as a director-writer. Already established movie star. Total success, folks. $42 million opening weekend. Warner Brothers has been on a hit streak, folks. And continues with this film, alright? Big hit. Okay, folks. No. Hasn't opened in China, folks. Venom hasn't opened in China or Japan. And it's already made $500 million, basically. So, one could expect Venom might even be able to make $700 million if it blows up in one of those markets. We don't know. I could see it doing well in Japan, folks. Japan completely embraces capitalism. And they don't like immigrants just coming in. They have very strict immigration policy. Love Japan. Great. Weird culture. Great politics, folks. Because the Devil's Rejects was surprisingly good, folks. Rob Zombie made one half-decent film. The rest of his films are terrible. They're awful. They're smut. So, after taking over Box Office Addict, folks, I've spent the last several days coming up with a new series of videos that are going to replace Pat's current filmography, or videography, if you will. All of the videos on Please or One will be taken down, and they're just going to be replaced with videos of my doing about movies, me talking about them. Some of the videos will be the same, like Back to the Future. Other videos will be different. I mean, let's face it, he already plagiarized me with the patriarchy thing anyway. Pat, how are you doing? Yeah, you can say all you want, alright? You're done? Alright, your ass is grass, fucks. Anyway, the last few months, I've been drinking, partying, fucking behind my doctor wife's back. I haven't been even using Blue Apron. I'll confess to you right now, folks. I've never used Blue Apron. They just give me money and I love it, okay? The more times I say it, the more money I make. Blue Apron. I just made money right now. $100. Right there, folks. Blue Apron, Blue Apron, Blue Apron. $300. Okay? I just bought a dinner that you could never afford. That's how great it is to be me right now. Anything to say to that, Pat? Yeah. Nonsense. Okay? So this will now be a channel run by Ben Shapiro. I would take all the credit for Pat's work. And a century from now, when he's remembered as the greatest YouTuber ever, the greatest artist of his time, people are going to think about me and not him. My name will live on longer than his ever did. It's amazing. I can't wait. And to make sure it all goes the way I want it to, folks, I will kill Pat at the end of this live stream on his channel for you to all hear, and so you can say your goodbyes. I think that's pretty fair. Me and Pat have decided to work on this Box Office Addict together. My decision, not really Pat's. And this will be his final show. before we get to the #1 movie of the week, Halloween, folks. Gamergate 2.0. It's ridiculous. Everything's Gamergate now. I don't like it. All right. It felt great to go and Bill Maher and put in his audience in place. They're ridiculous. Just terrible. Bill's not funny. Debating Cenk was fun. I thought it was going to be a little bit more aggressive, and I thought he was going to say some crazy stuff, but it just turned into a pretty normal political debate. And that's kind of my bread and butter, folks. We're not freeing Pat, folks. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen, gang. No way. See, God has let me down. Alright, my life's horrible. I've turned to every kind of vice that you could possibly have. Women, drugs, drinking, gambling, everything, folks. I don't know what to do. Meanwhile, Pat's just made one brilliant video after another. Even though he's taken a long break between videos, every time he makes one, it's a new masterpiece. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like as if he's doing it like the video's already in his head before he makes it. And he's just improvising these brilliant bits on Box Office Addict week to week. As if he was just taking dictation. I mean, videos finished. Like videos have never been finished, folks. This place, one cut, and the whole thing falls. You change one line of dialogue, a one-liner that Pat came up with that's brilliant, and the whole thing crumbles. It's terrible, folks. It's absolutely terrible. I could see in the Good Will Hunting video that Pat was bringing out his past self, a more negative side, the most powerful side of himself, the dark side, if you will. And I had to stop it before he blossomed to a new level of success that I could never think possible. Yeah, I'm gonna tie up and murder several YouTubers. My rise to the top. Shapiro. That's the way it is. Okay, Halloween, folks. $77 million opening weekend. This is huge. Second biggest October opening weekend of all time behind Venom. $10 million budget from David Gordon Green, well-reviewed film. This is insane. Okay, horror franchises are back. Horror's back in general. The Nun had a huge opening weekend. It opened to $123 million, folks. Over the last 2 years, films like The Conjuring, Annabelle, all been hits. And don't be surprised if they bring back Freddy. They bring back Jason Voorhees again. Even though those last films did well on opening weekend and dropped, it's a different era now. Films that opened to $30 million just 10 years ago, like the original Halloween, well, the original remake of Halloween, folks, which made $26 million, directed by Rob Zombie. Okay. Terrible musician and filmmaker, Rob Zombie. $26 million opening weekend. Now is a $77 million opening weekend. I know what you're saying, folks. Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis. That's true. I understand. But still, would you be shocked if they bring Freddy back now? If they bring back Jason? Other horror icons? I mean, a $50 million opening weekend just seems like a lock now. It shows that people still want to go to the movies. It's been a crazy year. Incredibles 2, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, all the films that have made money like Crazy Rich Asians. It's just been a huge year at the box office, and a lot of it's been horror films or blockbusters. Comedies don't seem to be doing as well, folks, even though Crazy Rich Asians, part of it's a comedy, and it did okay. So anyway, folks, $91 million worldwide. This is clearly going to be the biggest film of David Gordon Green's career. Before that, it would be Pineapple Express from a financial standpoint. Jamie Lee Curtis is back. This is the biggest thing she's been in, what, 20 years, folks? At least 15 years. So this film's definitely going to make $100 million. I don't know if it'll make much more than that. Folks, I could only see this maybe making $150 million if it has big drops at the box office. Who knows? It's got a B+ cinema score, but we still don't know with these sort of things. Horror typically has big declines, but with an opening weekend this good, it doesn't really matter. But let's just look at the last few weeks, folks. I mean, really, you got to think about it. Like Venom, $80 million opening week in October. This one's 77 over the summer. Let's just look at some of the movies, folks. Talk about 2018. Hotel Transylvania 3 made $517 million. Ready Player One did good. Ant-Man 2 did good. Deadpool 2 did good. Mission Impossible Fallout did good. Incredibles 2 did great. Jurassic World did great. All these movies, folks. The Meg movie, a lot of people didn't think would do that well. Huge hit. The only thing that really bombed was Solo, folks. The terrible Disney Solo movie. Ocean's 8, 296 million worldwide. Skyscraper even made 300 million. I still don't think that's a hit, folks, but still, movies made money this year. And you can just see it right here. I mean, yeah, sure, there's stuff like Bad Times at the El Royale or First Man. I hear that, folks, but then you think about A Star is Born, Halloween, and Venom, and how well they're all doing. So, crazy year 2018 at the box office, but in particularly horror films. I'd say studios are going to keep making horror films, folks, and that's where it's going. And I think the budgets are going to stay low, and the profits are going to stay high. And we have It Part 2 coming out, and I wouldn't be surprised, folks, if they make a sequel to this movie after this success. This is a major opening weekend. A huge win for Universal. Jason Blum from Blumhouse produced this. This is the biggest opening for a Blumhouse film. They've had big hits too, folks, like Get Out. So overall, not much to say here. Co-written by Danny McBride. Weird, folks. And yeah, they've collaborated on Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals, folks. So there you go, gang. Halloween, $77 million opening weekend on 66 box office Addict. The film's going to break even and make a profit and then some. And with good reviews, who knows, this might be able to even make like 200 million. So overall, I wasn't expecting this. I don't think anyone was. I think the biggest opening weekend expectations that a lot of analysts had were 50 to 60 million. But 77 million, folks, that's pretty crazy. Don't say it's a right-wing nightmare, folks. Okay, you're bad people. I don't like that. I'll strike you down. I'll tie you up. I'll take over your shows. My tyranny will never end. Okay? Okay, anyway, folks, what do you guys think about the Halloween opening weekend? Do you have anything to add? Blumhouse? Jamie Lee Curtis? Okay. David Gordon Green? Not David Gordon Red. And the idea that you think that I'm only talking about this because this is the movie of the week and Pat already had a schedule is pretty ridiculous. Okay, of course I'm talking about it. Everyone saw this movie. It's a big hit. I just didn't go see it because it looks terrible. But still, this film's a success. Pat might have reviewed it if I didn't tie him up. But here lies the problem, folks. I've seen into the future, and it doesn't work out the way I wish it would. As hard as I try, and after I take over Pat's channels, it's the internet and you can't get rid of things, folks. Years and years go by, gang. And Pat's name does live on. I try to kill myself when I'm older. Years and years after his death. After I've been the president, received every accolade. I changed the economy of America around to where it's making billions of dollars in profit every year. Alright? I eliminate the size of the government. And I become the first Jewish president. Pretty great, folks. I remarry my wife who's a doctor. She just lets me sleep with women on the side. It's great. Cigar stuff, folks. Bill Clinton stuff. Good. Very good. But then I have to hear about Please Rewind, folks. And Pat. It's released on the internet publicly. People start downloading it. I can't stop it as much as I try. But then I start announcing to the world, folks, I'm the one who killed Pat. I'm the one who killed Please Rewind. I did Box Office Addict 66 and took over. That was the moment when it happened. But nobody cares, folks. Nobody cares. It's still about him. I will be forgotten. I will be lost in time. And Pat will live on. He's the greatest artist in history. Possibly the greatest person ever. He's been touched by God. Probably inappropriately. In places that I can't even imagine. The problem, folks, before you buy your blue apron, before you do anything, is that you're all mediocre. And I'm mediocre too, folks. I'm a ghost. And after I die and pass on, when you feel mediocre, when you feel alone, you'll feel my presence, folks, and I'll be there. I'll be there to forgive you. Because God will not forgive you, folks. God's punishment will be late in life, when you're not expecting it, when you're on your deathbed, like I shall be someday, and you realize that none of it was worth it. You'll be forgotten. But please rewind to live on, folks. Please rewind to live on. Amen. Oh, Blue Apron? Blue Apron? Blue Apron. I just made $300. It's like Beetlejuice, but every time I say it 3 times, I get money. Not Michael Keaton. Tim Burton's overrated, folks. Wait, what's going on? No! Take that, you fucker. Oh, hey guys. Sorry, I'm back. I just kicked Ben Shapiro's little ass. Turns out for being such a guy with big balls whenever he goes to talk at college campuses and all that, he's kind of a pussy when it comes to, fisticuffs. Are we going to do this again? So I hope you guys have been enjoying Box Office Addict. I don't know entirely what Ben all said. He's kind of fucking crazy. He showed up in my place. He was wearing a mask of Hillary Clinton. It was very scary. He tied me up. He threw me in the closet in my apartment. He looked around for my computer, my microphone, and all that shit. It's pretty scary. He had an AK-47 with him. He had an AR-15. Ben's packing, quite frankly. Maybe he was upset I looked at the nudes of his sister that leaked. I'm not sure. I think he was jealous of something I made. It's no big deal, though. Shapiro is a fool, right? I mean, come on. If somebody said do a Ben Shapiro impression, I would talk like this, folks, and then I would fart or something. That's how terrible he is. That's true. I guess I'm not surprised, Noel. It's good to see you guys. What did I come into? You silly bug. Yep, I did come out of the closet. That's true. I also came in the closet, if you must know. Oh, my arse did survive. It turns out Ben's not gay. But... Hey, you leave Ben alone, alright? Ben's an okay guy. Before he did this, I was a fan. Did I see Halloween 2018? That's for you guys to find out possibly this week. I am back. It's good to see you guys. The Gaily Wire. Yeah, what movie did you see early with David Gordon Green and Danny McBride? Bridesmaids 2. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Bye, Ben. Bring the Pat back. Awesome. And Andy Rose like a retarded phoenix. Oh my goodness, wonderful. Also, this Halloween opening weekend, what the fuck, right? 77 million? That's insane. You saw the gay edition of Pineapple Express? Oh yeah, there is that. Isn't there? When was the last time Jamie Lee Curtis was in something really successful? Freaky Friday. Holy shit, 2003. Oh wait, what's that movie that made 94 million? Oh, Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Well, I guess there's that. David Gordon Green, his biggest movie, Pineapple Express, right? Yeah. 101 million. This will pass that very soon. Domestically and worldwide. I like a couple David Gordon Green films. I like Pineapple Express well enough, and I like Joe. I don't really like any of his other movies. I like Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal, but really I like his TV work. I love the stuff he did on Vice Principals and Eastbound and Down. I'm a huge fan of the shows, but really that's more Jody Hill, who him and David Gordon Green have the exact same style. They actually direct in the same way with slow motion and their camera work and the way they light, with almost this gritty indie realism thing that they both do, naturalism mixed with a lot of style. Though actually there's moments of style, like an explosion that just happens at moments, which are sometimes surreal and scary. So David Gordon Green wasn't the worst pick for Halloween. I mean, I would have probably preferred Jody Hill, But, you know, like I said, they're very similar. I wish maybe Jody Hill worked on this, though, just as a friend. He might have talked to them about it. I like him a lot more. I really like his film, Observe and Report, even though I know a lot of people hate that movie. But yeah, David Gordon Green's had it, you know, started off as an indie darling with George Washington, and then that's on Criterion, and then really his career didn't go anywhere. Snow Angels did okay, but then he got in with Seth Rogen and them, kind of like Spike Jonze with the Jackass guys, made a comedy. Then Your Highness was a big bomb. The Sinner was a bomb, and both got terrible reviews. Then he came back with Prince Avalanche with Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch and Joe. Then his career kind of, you know, went downhill a little bit again, and then he came back with Stronger, which looked like Jake Gyllenhaal was going to get a Best Actor nomination, didn't happen. And then now Halloween, which puts him in, you know, to A-list territory now. I mean, this is huge. Also, just puts Blumhouse in another level, which they, you know, you didn't think they could reach another one, honestly. They have the Purge franchise. I mean, Upgrade bombed. I love that, but almost all of their movies have been hits. With Insidious and Get Out getting a Best Picture nomination. They produced Split. They're producing Glass, the new M. Night Shyamalan film. It's a sequel to Unbreakable. Sinister. I mean, they've had it, but this is on another level. I mean, $77 million, them getting the Halloween franchise. And like Ben said, I think he's very right. I think we will see the return of Leatherface and Freddy and that soon. It's funny, in the early 2000s, there was all, in the mid 2000s, and even a little later, they started to do the remakes of all these. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually did really well. It opened to like 26 million, and we're talking like 2004, 2003. I actually like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I know a lot of people hate it. My friends all hated it. I don't get it. I think it's actually scary, well made. Surprisingly good. I mean, it's just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and yeah, it doesn't have the grit. It's a stylized version of the story, but Arlie Ermey's great in it. I really like that movie. I think that I know people hate it, but people even I know who don't like it love the opening and ending, where they do the fake documentary, almost an Unsolved Mysteries esque scene with a cop going down to the bottom and then Leatherface attacking, like the case is still open. That is scary. That part, that is awesome. And it makes a good argument, and I don't know why they have never done it, as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that's found footage. You think like it's the one franchise that makes the most fucking sense, right? Like Halloween, I think you could do found footage, but why do that when you can just go back to its roots? Friday the 13th kind of has a certain tone and fun to it that I think would be lost. I think there should be a Friday the 13th movie where Jason's kind of the main character. I think that would be a good idea for a remake. Freddy, I think the less of you see of him, the better. I was actually talking to my girlfriend about this last night, that she was like, well, what would you do if you did Nightmare on Elm Street again? I'm like, cut Freddy out as much as you can. I wouldn't do what the sequels did, even though I love the sequels to different varying degrees, but I like them all. But the thing is, when Freddy's at his scariest is when he's not in it a lot, when he's more hinted at, you feel his presence, that Hannibal Lecter only being in Silence of the Lambs for 15 minutes, but it always seems like he's there, or the Joker in Dark Knight. Darth Vader's not even in Star Wars that much when you think about it, even in Empire, but it's building towards Darth Vader. You feel Darth Vader and Luke's conflict coming, and then when it happens, it really pays off because you didn't get too much Darth Vader. So it's exciting when you actually get an extended sequence with him. So with Freddy, I think the less you show him, I think if you have moments in the nightmare, I mean, that's why the first film still works so well, why it's so effective. I mean, I really love the first night. I've seen it in the theater a couple times. And one of the great things about Nightmare on Elm Street is like the early part where the gloves are getting sharpened with the credits, or when you just see him in the distance, or when Tina gets killed, but you barely see Freddy during that. It makes him way scarier. That's the scariest he ever was, even though his personality and powers are probably at their best in Dream Warriors. When it comes to just classic horror, I think Freddy's at it. So Freddy, I think, as little as possible, actually showing him visually would make that better. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper basically did found footage. That's essentially the gimmick, if you will, of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is it's a documentary. It even starts, I mean, the cinematography, which, you know, William Friedkin was a documentary filmmaker and did The Exorcist, but I think that's very different. He tries to reach like a level of hyper-realism with really naturalistic acting mixed with these very hyper-stylized sequences. But the thing about Texas Chainsaw is that despite the acting being kind of bad and over the top, the actual film itself, the filmmaking is very subtle and well done. I mean, it's very clever how he executes his idea. especially the last shot with Leatherface spinning the chainsaw around, and the cut to black. There's political allegories. There's it's every urban legend, right? It's every story you tell around a campfire, but it's actually being one shown to you, right? But yeah, no one's ever been able to make a good sequel or really follow up Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even though Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is fun as fuck, Dennis Hopper has a chainsaw fight. It's a very funny movie. No one's ever been able to capture it. And I thought about it. I think the big reason is no one's taken the documentary approach again. And there's some horrible Texas Chainsaw sequels, man. The one with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. Stop it, mister, you're scaring me. It's fucking horrible. Just a fucking horrible movie. But the more I think about it, the more that I think about it, Texas Chainsaw really needs to be found footage. That makes the most sense to me. Is their cameras, and then you show Leatherface and the chainsaw coming with like a cell phone camera and stuff like that. It's one of the only genres I see, because for some reason you can't seem to make a sequel. Even Hooper couldn't make one. So. Who knows? Anyway, Halloween, though, this is like, let's return to the roots. Let's make a direct sequel. This also shows that you can just ignore continuity, like these superhero reboots, and just say we're making Halloween H2O again. People, I saw Halloween H2O in the fucking theater when I was a kid. I was at school at this Halloween event thing, where they have you stick your hand and it's spaghetti, and they're like, oh, it's worms or eyeballs and shit like that, right? And then you play the little games outside. They had a lot of shit like this in the 90s. I don't know if they still do this stuff today. Halloween was still big when I was a kid. Like, trick-or-treating was still big when I was little. It's not as big now. Even though our generation seems to fucking love Halloween on the internet. But anyway, then my parents took me to go see H2O. See, my parents were different from a lot of parents or a lot of my friends who were into horror films. A lot of my friends who love horror weren't allowed to watch it or watch R-rated movies. So they almost have this connection with it because it was rebellious. Because they were able to get something that they didn't have access to. It was forbidden. They were being censored, like the censorship from the MPAA or producers throughout the decades when it comes to, art and horror and what you're allowed to show. But for me, it was the opposite. My parents had no problem with me watching R-rated movies. They had no problem with me. I mean, maybe when I was real little, they weren't cool with it. But when I got to a certain age, they took me to go see horror films and slasher films. I saw R-rated movies. My dad didn't take me to go see an R-rated movie. And as a teenager, they pretty much let me watch whatever I want. By the time I was like 13, 14, they're like, well, you can watch whatever the fuck you want. So I was never limited by them on that, and I think I have a deeper understanding of the difference between it being fake and real, of morality, of the morality in those films, and why horror films do have morality. I think I have a context for it that's deeper. I think actually not showing people that stuff isn't going to help them at all. It almost kind of makes it a negative it doesn't need to be. It's okay for them to understand that movies aren't real. The violence isn't real, and it could be commenting on the violence without, exploiting it. And if it does exploit it, there's nothing wrong with that really either. There's a comedic value to stuff like that, like what schlock is and why we enjoy it so much. And I think it gives you less of an awkward or scared feeling about the body, your body, other people's bodies, nudity, death, even in a sense. That's one great thing about body horror is you see bodies get ripped up, tormented. Let's say a Pinhead-esque, Clive Barker, Hellraiser scenario, right? But there's always that sexual aspect to it in horror films, right? That the pain at the highest level is the greatest pleasure. That part too, to where trying to show you the beauty of the body inside and out. And that's not everybody's thing, but that's a big running theme through David Cronenberg films or Frank Henenlotter films or any film from that era even. But some of those gross things you can see as beautiful. A good example I would use is something like Candyman by Bernard Rose. I think is a great example of how stuff that's really gory and can be beautiful. Peter Jackson's early career is that way. Guillermo del Toro. So I think that you get a deeper understanding of it, and it helps you in your art or in your life be able to differentiate that stuff, to have the context. I think I have it very well. I mean, maybe it makes you a little quirky, I don't know, but I think that I think don't limit young people to that kind of stuff. Don't limit their exposure, because that those emotions are going to get for the first time as a teenager. The first time you're going to feel certain feelings. You're going to feel those certain feelings with art, and it's going to really shape you in a lot of ways and your emotional reaction to art. And I think exposing them to as much as possible is helping them find the thing that most completes them and makes them their happiest, and what they would like to pursue with art, what art can do to you, the contradictions that you can only see in art, that only art can show. Right, as Salieri says in Amadeus, written by Peter Schaffer, that the contradiction that art can only show, that something can be immortal while also dying simultaneously. And you could even say that with this architecture, perhaps nature, but perhaps that is an art in itself, or at least our attention to it, our perception of it, that we notice details that we have an emotional reaction towards that we can't totally explain. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and it's really exciting that being a horror fan for so long and caring about it so much, and it being a genre that I don't think was ever generally respected in a lot of ways. I think that a lot of horror films, outside of the ones that are always considered raves, like critics hated Psycho, and then once it became a big hit with audiences, critics were like, oh, it's a masterpiece. You know, critics were never right with horror. Every horror film that came out that ended up becoming like a classic that we love later, almost across the board, was ripped apart by people like Roger Ebert. Halloween was one of the only ones that actually got good reviews on its initial release. Critics hated The Thing because they're fucking morons, and you go read those reviews and they're laughable. It's like, did you miss all of this great stuff in this movie? And you're talking about it like it's just some vomit-inducing, gross piece of trash. Like it's just some movie that's trying to make you go, ugh. Instead of looking at how well-crafted it is and how good McCready is as a character, and the chemistry for, and the tension, the stuff that isn't gore that creates tension. But they don't give a shit about that. It was just, you know, the critics are very much of their time, and horror never really is of its time. Now, there is horror that is trapped in the 80s, right? There's horror that's trapped in the 70s, but they reflect the time later in a lot of ways. But at the time when they were happening, most of the time they were innovations. They were things that were new, that were creating trends that would be evolved to the next decade. So horror in itself, like sort of like music or fashion, never really ends. But now we have this retro thing, right? We all are dressing like the 80s again. We all love the 80s Stranger Things. So now 70s, 80s horror is really coming back, even though it seems like the Ghost movie and the Exorcism movie, supernatural stuff's really taken over. But now we're saying, okay, can we bring back the slasher? Can we bring back the knife, the penetration of the virginal girl, right? But then can we even go further than that and say that we don't even have to obey the continuity that fans were so attached to? Why they went to horror cons or festivals was to discuss the sequels. Halloween 4 is underrated, right? That's so Season of the Witch is great in its own right? Halloween 2 kind of sucks, except for like the climax. But you go on and on with this, right? What's your favorite Friday 13th? You like them for different reasons. Almost everyone has a different favorite, and it's not usually the original a lot of the time. Sometimes, even though that original is the one that probably holds up the best as a movie, a lot of times somebody has a bigger favorite in a sequel, because it has an idiosyncratic nature to it that's specific to that franchise and that villain and the tone that was set by it. A lot of people like later Freddy more than the original Freddy because they like Robert Englund's more comedic personality. They like his one-liners. They like his charisma. They like a Freddy with more character. And so that's a thing right there that you have. This also is interesting because Cordery FX, but me and him discussed this, but other people discussed that the Neil Blomkamp Alien 5 was probably a better idea than doing Covenant. And now, you know, I think this shows that maybe it was, if you had brought back Ripley. Because all of the Alien films that did really well, excluding Prometheus, was always about Sigourney Weaver. So yeah, what if you said, let's ignore Alien 3 and bring back Ripley and do the proper Alien 3? She's actually been she's actually been frozen, sleeping, right, for longer, and she aged. And Neil Blomkamp's film Even though I think Neil Blomkamp hasn't made a good movie since District 9. He's a goofy douche. Freddy vs. Jason is also awesome, by the way. I love Freddy vs. Saw that in the theater. So now we could say with the Alien franchise, which is horror, that bringing back Sigourney Weaver probably was the right idea. It would have opened better. I think that's just a fact at this point. And then we have to look at what they did with Star Wars and bringing back the characters. I think that now, yeah, we're probably going to see more of this, and maybe people shouldn't be so quick to jump on, myself included, Terminator, the next Terminator being a bomb, the Tim Miller Terminator, because perhaps doing the Sarah Connor thing and ignoring 3 and 4 and 5 and just saying that this, even though Cameron endorsed Genesis, but saying like, no, this is the sequel, you guys. Bryan Singer essentially tried to do a Superman Returns, but he failed to get people to connect on that. It seems like people want that now with this opening. So I think we are definitely going to see the next Terminator do better than what we were expecting. I'm realizing now that it's not just the franchise, it's not just the brand, but it's the characters and the continuation of a story. So it does turn out people still care about continuity, which the Marvel films have shown. But that not just that people are willing to, just like with superhero films, are able to with other famous franchises, ignore the sequels and accept something new as a sequel. They'll accept that premise as a hypothetical, which you should always be able to, right? Because let's say, for example, something like Amadeus, right? That's not a direct adaptation of Mozart's life or Salieri, right? It's very fictional. It's very played up to explore a theme of feeling inadequate, of feeling mediocre to someone who's a genius, of being mad at God about it. So we're getting this great figure, this great composer through the context of someone else and their duel with God and their hatred for this person, yet they're the only one that can embrace and respect the genius at the time. Nobody gets it except them. Are we seeing themes connect people, right? This is the thing with the slasher, right? That us understanding it and loving it at the time, and then as the years go on, right, the reputation rises, what people want out of a movie, how people, its brand appeal. And there's the Salieris of the world who didn't understand that that's what it was. And not just that, but that people are able to understand that they're smart enough, quite frankly, to understand that you can change a story and rewrite it, and even use the same gimmick like Halloween H2O was. Let's do the final Laurie Strode story. But this time it's just saying, hey, Michael Myers hasn't seen him in 40 years. The real life, it's been 40 years, just like H2O actually. But so at a time when movies used to be really great, one thing that was great about movies is that they took risks, is that there was a gamble with it, that they would try things that were different. They would try hypothetical scenarios because they trusted that the audience was smart enough that they could go with something that was very meta or a farce, or that would change history, or things that were considered to be locked down in a continuity or how things are supposed to be done. People could accept it. They could accept the risk of it if they enjoyed the movie itself and be like, oh, wow, this works. You don't have to look at it as something part of this franchise. You can look at it as its own thing, almost like an Elseworlds tale for Batman. This doesn't follow the Detective Comics continuity. It's its own story and its own continuity that's pulling from things it likes because it likes these characters in this mythology. And that used to be a great thing about movies, is that people could see those archetypes, they could see those things and understand that they could be restructured and redone in fresh, innovative ways. This is why Goodfellas was so great and so many people loved it, because it was much more like, this is the violence you've never seen in any mob movie, and this is closer to what it was like, and we're going to make it completely entertaining and enthralling. We're not going to put it to this Shakespearean mythical level like The Godfather. We're going to put you right in it, in the center of it. That's what leads to those things that felt really thing. But in the last few years, it felt like movies had lost something. that they had become, let's go back to basic structure, ABC, and just almost make films feel like they're too written to hit beats, to just be, you know, a collection of scenes that work well enough, but it gave everything this generic feeling because overall the bones underneath it never felt very solid. But now there's these filmmakers who have had years being indie directors and art house directors or television, and it's all mixing together now, technology, television, movies. They're not completely separate anymore like it used to be for actors and filmmakers. So now we're seeing these people who maybe have a very specific understanding of some of these genres. And I think this is what leads to success with people like Red Letter Media because of how hyper-specific their qualifications are and how they talk about movies is what's so fascinating about them. Even where their humor comes from is very specific, and we're all very attracted to that. They're not experts in everything, right? But they know a fucking lot about the stuff they know about. And you see how it defines them. So people like being defined. They like trying to fit in. So now we're coming at a time where horror is making people feel like they fit in. It's no longer just this punk thing. It's no longer just the teenagers go to see it, right? It's something where it's respected critically. Almost all of these films are getting good reviews. It's respected by studios to not just be something you mass produce with, like, you know, $500,000 budgets and you don't care about casting good actors. It's like, no, now we're going to cast good actors. Now we're actually going to get directors that aren't essentially no names who do whatever the producer wants. Hey, you got to have some boobs in this. So it's going back to what John Carpenter did with the original Halloween, or with what a lot of filmmakers did like Wes Craven, where they can try something a little different. They can make something fresh in a genre that they understand from a psychological standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, and he can have that great premise, Freddy Krueger kills you in your dreams. So the hope is, with this renaissance, is that we go back to that we just don't get it in a new interpretation, that we just don't get Halloween, that we don't get the new Pet Sematary, that we're probably going to get a fucking new Shining. The thing is to hope that someone says, I'm making the next goddamn Shining. I'm making the next Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm coming up with the next horror icon. And I don't mean Jigsaw. I don't mean Darth Maul from the fucking Insidious films. I don't mean any of that shit. I mean that someone's saying, I have a new premise. I mean something more of like how It Follows had that idea, but consistently more of that kind of stuff. And somebody really pulling it the fuck off, right? That let the right one in, that we start getting horror films that once again are not only for the fan base of their time, which is now bigger than maybe it ever was, also saying, let's take this to the next level. Let's do something with this that hasn't really been done and scare you in a new way, which hasn't happened much in the last 20 years. What was one of the last really experimental films in horror? Like the Blair Witch Project? Like, you got to really think about this. It doesn't happen very much, but people want to overlook this, but it used to kind of happen all the time. Even if it was just subversion of certain tropes or a new perspective on them. So, I don't know. I find all of that very interesting. I find this to be a very interesting time for all of this. Casino is a poor man's Goodfellas, but it's also like an awesome season of television crammed into a 3-hour movie. Casino gets better every time I see it, quite frankly. I used to feel that way about Casino too, but every time I rewatch it, I think Casino is like, yeah, it feels like an awesome season of television. And it's still like The Sopranos took so much from that, and Goodfellas. Oh, trust me, I'm pro boobies, and I miss them being in movies. Don't worry. Goodfellas is amazing, yeah. Yeah, I don't think David Green understands the Spencer atmosphere very well either. I agree with you. I think he doesn't understand a lot of things. Exorcist is like one of my 10, 20 favorite movies. Yes, nostalgia is part of this too. I mean, this is what Force Awakens, we're in nostalgia era, but with nostalgia, you can get stuff like Stranger Things, which is a lot of things you've seen before, but the Duffers tweaked it enough, at least in that first season. I'm just saying I want more of that. That's my hope. Is that I can actually get new classics for genres that I love. I've given up on science fiction. I've given up on comedies, but I haven't given up on horror, even though I think most modern horror films are overrated. I always have an optimism the next one might be the one. I love Phantasm. I love I mean, they're not all great, but Phantasm 2 is amazing. Phantasm 3 is okay. Oblivion Side, no, Ravager. But the first one's awesome. Met actors from it, seen it many times, love it. It's got a great mix of science fiction, horror, experimental filmmaking. It's indie. It's epic and intimate at the same time. They use their low budget to the most they possibly can. I mean, it's very Sam Raimi-esque, honestly, parts of it, and then it's a little Wes Craven too. I mean, it's great. It's a gem. Oh yeah, the cinematography is the best part of Casino, arguably. Best sci-fi of the last decade? Ex Machina. I don't know. Children of Men. I guess Children of Men. That was the previous decade. I guess we're coming up on the end of a decade, aren't we? Yeah, Ex Machina the last few years for me, and Children of Men are the only ones that come to mind in years that I mean, some episodes of Black Mirror, the John Hamm one, White Christmas, I think's great. Piece of science fiction. Her, Spike Jonze, Her is probably my top answer. That's Philip K. Dickian in a sense. Parts of it feels more like sci-fi literature. That one actually had philosophical concepts I thought were really interesting. Yeah, her probably is my favorite sci-fi film of the last years. Yeah, I don't know how Death Note Netflix cost $50 million. That's insane. It looked like it cost $15 million. But David Gordon Green films always have good cinematography. I mean, he's good at that. I mean, I haven't liked any of the live-action remakes of the Disney animated films, but they're all making a shitload of money. I hope I like The Lion King. I mean, I do. I hope I like Aladdin. You know, that should be my next video. Either The Garden State as a horror film or my Ex Machina video that I've always wanted to make. The Beta Cuck. Ex Machina and the Beta Cuck or something like that. The Beta Male. The Evil of Women. That's what I've talked about. But yeah, I think that's a huge theme of Ex Machina. I think it's just there. I don't know how anyone can't see it, really. Otherwise, it's just a... I mean, honestly, it makes the film more shallow. Sorry, I'm yawning. If it's not about those things, it's just a film that has a plot twist and some interesting characters, but that would make it much slighter. I think what makes it brilliant is its subtext. Oh yeah, Inception. I like Inception. And then, of course, Batman 89. It always goes back to Batman 89. That's a terrible theory by Wild Smile, even though I'm a fan. So anyway, Halloween, 77 million. Huge. Crazy. Venom's doing huge. Star is Born. First Man, yeah, what the fuck happened there, Damien Giselle? Trying to ride the tiger like Dio, aren't you? Mid-90s from Jonah Hill opened at 249,000 in 4 theaters, 62,000. I don't think the film's gonna end up doing that well. A Simple Favor, where's that at? 83 million from Paul Feig. I guess there's really not much else to talk about. Like, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Melissa McCarthy? But yeah, nothing. Wildlife, I know this movie. Yeah, Paul Dano directed it. Zoe Kazan wrote it, yeah. I liked Ruby Sparks, so maybe. Actually, I did a video on Ruby fucking Sparks. Bad Times at the Royale. I knew that was just gonna after the opening weekend. Yeah, people are not digging this movie. It's really disappointing with Drew Goddard because I'm a fan. It's upsetting for him that this is just kind of a come and go movie. I really, this felt like this had potential. Like if it had cut a half hour and they had marketed a little bit better and it would have got like better review. I think he might have, like, if he'd have pulled it off better, right? I think this could have actually turned into a hit, but it just didn't work out that way. It had all the makings of it, the cast, him, I mean, the premise even, but yeah. Yet something like Venom makes the money it does. Completely terrible. So, you can't win, people. You can't win, folks. I've seen Inception like 30 times on television. I mean, I don't know if you're part of the problem, but you're supporting something that's in a similar fashion. Some hipster bullshit director trying to subvert you and thinks that he understands a franchise and can comment on it better. That kind of shit. But, Jamie Lee Curtis is definitely in the movie more, and I think it's more to do than Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford did, so I would give it that. I think Laurie Strode gets represented a lot better than the old characters from which is one of the biggest issues with the new Star Wars films, is that we waited for decades for these characters to come back, and then we get the worst possible versions of them, and their failures, and I mean, it's like, what the fuck? And they don't get to do anything. They don't do anything interesting. Other great film channels like yours. That's funny. The Andy Signor video is back up, I believe. I don't think it's down anymore. Oh yeah, it's way better than Interstellar. I mean, what I like about Inception, because I know people debate Inception. A lot of people said it was a masterpiece and was loved, and other people fucking hate it. I don't think either side's right. I don't think Inception's a masterpiece, one of the great movies. I also don't think it's a terrible movie that people say it is, and they try to point out. There's a lot of good things about Inception, and Christopher Nolan's a decent filmmaker. It's very well edited. It's got great cinematography. There's some decent performances. The depth of the movie, and I don't mean depth intellectually, but it has filmmaking depth. The layers within layers thing is very well done. It's something you actually don't see in a lot of movies. People could say, like, oh, I've seen that before, but that's not done very often. Yes, you're going to say, like, it's not as weird as David Lynch. It's not as good as Paprika. You're going to, like, okay, it doesn't have to be either, though. It can be its own thing. Like, if you're not happy that it wasn't The Matrix, then that's fine, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it can be its own thing. But I think the themes are interesting. I think there's a lot of really good dialogue that's quotable. I think Leo's very good in it, and I like the images. I like the top spinning. I think that's an iconic image in modern movies. I kind of just like the pacing and the overall feel of the movie too. I think it's an entertaining movie. I've seen it. I saw it in the theater several times, and yeah, it's not like I left like, God, this was a masterpiece, but yeah, I thought it was really fucking good. I thought it was a solid blockbuster and well made, and for the most part works. It doesn't totally fall apart. Like, yeah, you want to be a little bit more invested, and yeah, you want to see more cerebral, weird stuff. You want to see more surreal stuff. You want it to go into harder science fiction than it. Of course you do. Yeah, I understand that. I'm not in Christopher Nolan's obsession with exposition after he started making Dark Knight and all that. You kind of want it to be a little bit more like Memento. And yeah, there was the low budget version he was going to make as more of a horror film,
with Maul as almost like a Freddy Krueger-esque character. But I think those scenes were like, they go into the elevator and Marion Cotillard's down there and she tries to kill Ellen Page. I think those are good scenes. I like that stuff. And then they go up to the elevator and there's the beach. I think that's cool shit. It's cool that it's an art house blockbuster. It's cool that it's trying to be a little mainstream with Charlie Kaufman, but it's trying to be a mainstream version of something like Eternal Sunshine that could make 800 million. I think that's a fun experiment. I think it was really interesting for him to do that after he made Dark Knight. That he didn't just play it safe, and that it became such a critical and commercial success, and that kind of solidified him. That led to what, you know, I didn't like about Dark Knight Rises and Interstellars. I think he kept trying to top the success of Dark Knight and Inception. But then he went back to basics, reinvented himself a little bit, and made Dunkirk, which is one of his like best movies. So I think Inception's very important in that. I mean, yeah, is it overrated by a lot of, yes, but does that make it bad, or does that mean that like it doesn't have good things about it? Or good sequences? I think it's a film with a bunch of great sequences. It might just be a sum of its parts movie in that regard, but there's some really well executed scenes that I think became very popular for a good reason. And yeah, the score and all that. So I don't know. I like Inception. I know if you're supposed to be an actual film buff and you're not supposed to like Inception, that's something, but I don't feel that way. I think Inception's an entertaining movie, and sometimes that's fine. Sometimes a movie can just be a movie. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. We seem to forget that. Oh, I want to do overrated classics. That's always been a dream. I mean, Rob Bager would be my biggest. I've talked about him. He's my favorite. His McCready video on the thing's terrific. And his Ellen Ripley video. That's every frame of painting, but he doesn't make videos anymore. For the most part, though, I don't like YouTube video film channels, really. So, I watch all of them, but I don't like any of them. Red Letter Media, I mean, that's about it. I only really like three or four. Nitpicks, is that his name? He made this Ben Affleck video recently I thought was his best video. Particularly the Road to Perdition comparison. So, he's someone I'm keeping my eye on. I think he makes really good content. Quartery FX I like as a reviewer, but he's not like... He's a comedic reviews movies. I don't know if he does, like, if you're talking about, like, video essays, I don't know. I don't think he totally does that, but I'm a fan of his stuff. I think he's a very funny, entertaining YouTuber. Mahler stuff's decent. You know, I thought it, you know, me and Blood Money were talking about how much we used to really like Eternal Sunshine, but like, he made a great point. He said it's a movie. It's one of those conversations we have that I hate we don't record, where he said it's a movie that needs repeat reviewings, and it gets better, but also gets worse every time you see it. And I know exactly what he means. Like, after I've seen it so much, you start to feel how thick a lot of the subtext is, and how Michel Gondry doesn't have some of the subtlety of Spike Jonze. And you start to realize, like, yeah, they're in the house falling apart, and like, you start to realize how on the surface and in your face some of the things are, which it's funny because the first time you're just trying to kind of figure it out and then go through it, and it's amazing. But yeah, I don't know, Eternal Sunshine, I'm more mixed on that movie now. I used to just love it. It used to just be one of my favorite movies. Now I don't know totally how I feel about it, and I clearly like Adaptation and Being John Malkovich more now, even though I used to think Eternal Sunshine was as good. It was really interesting, but I'm gonna have to revisit that one. I mean, I've seen it so much. I know every fucking scene of Eternal Sunshine, but maybe it was just something at its time it seemed really great, and maybe just as the years have gone on, it's not, you know, quite as fresh as it felt then. No, Lindsay, I agree with you. Lindsay Ellis is very good. She's the best person to come out of Channel Awesome. Yeah, when she doesn't put her politics in, when she doesn't clearly put her political bias and try to use academic backing for something that's just some bullshit theory. She's like, no, this has been back. It's in academia. It's like, okay, I don't give a fuck. What you're saying is bullshit. I mean, it would take a less than a minute long response to point out why you're saying bullshit. So, but yeah, her actual editing and some of her construction, she's a good version of Nostalgia Critic, really. Oh, ER, yeah, what the fuck? ER is king, though. Do I even need to mention him? Yeah, fucking ER all the way. His Get Out video is fucking amazing. I like scenes in Interstellar. Yeah, like the whole overall movie, no. It depends on the kind of film you're rewatching, though. I mean, that's true for some films. Some films get better every time you see them. There's a lot of films that when I saw in the theater, I thought were mediocre. And then I watched them more and more. And then every time you see it, all the flaws that it have kind of go away and you just start to enjoy it. Like, just for what it is. And that stuff's just stuff you get used to. Where other times there's movies where I fucking love them when I saw them the first couple of times, and then I tried to watch them like the 10th time, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't really do it anymore. It's interesting how that works. Yeah, that's a true. ER's not really a film critic analysis guy. He spends almost 50-60% of his videos just making jokes, which is why I'm a fan. Yeah, the Get Out review to me is like his master. I mean, I love Legend of Horror. I like all of his videos, but I think the Get Out one's like, it's so punk. It's so it just cuts so deep, and he's respectable about the movie. You know, he's fair to the positives of the movie with the good acting and parts in the movie, but also really there's just a tone he creates on videos very good of the feeling of something being overrated, which Get Out is. Which is the feeling I get with, like, when I was watching Black Panther. You just know people are saying this movie's great, but it's really not. Even though I much prefer Get Out to Black Panther, I think Get Out's an okay movie. Like, I know if you're supposed to be an anti-SJW, or you're supposed to be in the group I get associated with, and I'm supposed to hate stuff like Get Out, but I don't hate Get Out. I think it reminded me of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, if anything. That's what it reminded me of, and I think Jordan Peele's really talented, and I hope his next movies are better. I hope he improves on things that I had problems with Get Out. He's talented. I don't think he deserves an Oscar for best screenplay or anything like that, but is Jordan Peele a hack? No. Not yet. Let's give it time. Wait for his Twilight Zone, then he'll probably be a hack. The Matt Damon scenes are some of my favorite parts. I like when my favorite scene in the movie is the docking sequence, and I love that moment before Matt Damon's like, there's a moment, he pulls the thing and just shoots it. That whole stretch, him being a bad guy, I think is really entertaining and should just be the climax of the film. I don't think there should be the love bullshit, the meme with fucking McConaughey spinning around the thing. I think the film would work a lot better if, and it's a well-paced film, but I think it would work a lot better if it ended with the Matt Damon. That was just kind of the climax of the film, as they find him, he's a bad guy, they have to try to get back, and pretty much it's all for nothing anyway. I think that would make it a very interesting film too. Then Matthew McConaughey basically has to accept that his kids died and he failed his mission, which is something we don't see in movies too often. The movie ended with him failing, and Earth just goes to shit, and he's stuck in space with Anne Hathaway, and they have to try to keep life going. And there's a hint of maybe hope of that, but that's about it. Like, you know, I think that would be a much better film. But basically, they go out into space to find a man. They find a man to hope they could save mankind, and then they see what man really is, in a sense, in Matt Damon's character. And this man dies, he's dead, and he kind of represents the death of Earth in a sense. And then Matthew McConaughey could represent what is good about mankind and hopefully what can continue with it. And you could say in a sense then that love is an answer, but you wouldn't have to do it literal like Nolan does, where he has people talk about fucking love and love connects them and that bullshit. No, or the ending of Contact. Fuck all of that shit in Interstellar. Fuck all of it. Oh, ER is like completely right wing, like hardcore. Like he shoves red pills up his ass. They're suppositories. Oh yeah, no, Interstellar's fucking retarded. I agree. I'm not saying Interstellar's a smart movie. I just think it could have worked as like a thriller. Where they have to go into space and then it all goes to shit. Like that could have been a fun movie. Been like 2 hours and 15 minutes, you know, not 3 hours, and been a tight movie. It could have been. That's a problem with like every Christopher Nolan movie like that. It's like, there's probably a good 2-hour movie in this film, but Nolan just is overreaching on every part, which is why I like Dunkirk. It's tight. People forget Nolan used to be tighter, like Memento, The Prestige, and Insomnia are all really tight. Even Batman Begins is pretty tight. But then somewhere around Dark Knight, every movie became big and bombastic and became an epic. And I don't dislike Nolan wanting to be an epic filmmaker, but I think he's a much better director when he keeps his architecture that he likes doing. But I think when it's just better constructed and tighter and better paced and kind of ends with a melancholy to it than trying to build to a bunch of things coming together. He tries to make all the threads connect. He does try to do that in his third act and end on a great image at the end. I give him credit for that. I think he's good at that. That's one of his greatest strengths as a filmmaker, but less is more. I mean, and it applies to Christopher Nolan. Yeah, Get Out's not bad. It's just like, it's not the film some people made it out to be, but I don't think it's bad at all. I like Get Out. Honestly, his direction's the thing I like kind of most about it. I think it's well directed for the most part. You could tell that Jordan Peele understands films and he's a film buff and that he has a good sense of tone. I'm gonna review Halloween probably. Anyway, guys, I gotta get going here soon. If you are listening to Box Office Act, if you've been a fan for 77 episodes, you're probably an addict yourself, and I'm not here to help you get over that. I'm here to encourage it. Thank you for Ben Shapiro for joining us. His mediocre ass. Don't like Shapiro. Not anymore. Remy's now. And long live Please Rewind. Let's get this channel to past 10,000 and then hopefully 1 million. Because why the fuck not? I can dream. And I love you guys. You guys are great. I hope this was an entertaining show. It's definitely going to be one of the weirder Box Office Addicts, but every episode's different. So that's kind of what makes the show unique in its own way. And like I said, I will make more videos. I'm going to try to get a video out before October ends. That's my hope, is to get another video out before the end of October. I hope you guys like the Good Will Hunting video. And I want to also start a couple podcasts or so, which I know I've talked about for months, but I really want to actually get around to that. And I've been discussing that very seriously. So hopefully the channel will continue to have content and it won't just be Box Office Addict, which is almost what I should change the name to the channel, because it's Please Rewind's almost non-existent. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you folks next week. And the story of the week is horror is back, as it has been, and Michael Myers is back in a big fucking way. If you like this movie or dislike this movie, and it seems like people are mixed on it, audiences at least, or fans and non-fans alike, but can't deny it that this was well executed from a marketing, production, and release standpoint, which is what this show's about in a big way. So congratulations to everyone involved. People I'm not even the biggest fan of. It's like, hey, good for you. You pulled it off. Like you got to look at it when it's that way, and you got to accept that even though maybe you feel like you deserve this kind of success, you deserve the $77 million opening weekend, and maybe you think you're better than David Gordon Green, at the end of the day, that's not how it always works. That's not how art works, people. So hopefully we can all forgive each other for our mediocrity. That's all I got to say to that. I'll see you guys for episode 67, where we're probably talking about Halloween again, because I don't see the... I don't think this is going to drop, but who knows? Honestly, who knows? Alright, see you guys. I appreciate it.